Hi, thank you for joining Tomlyn Facebook Live. I'm here with Dr. Lowe, and he's going to go over some of the safety tips for animals. And in the meantime, if you have additional questions for us, just send us a message and we'll definitely try to respond to you. For some reason, if we missed your message, we will get back to you after we end Facebook Live. Thanks so much. So let's start with some of the safety tips. And as I gather the questions, Dr. Lowe, do you want to give them a little bit about your background?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, I'm a 1995 graduate of Texas A&M. I was in private practice for just at 18 years in both companion animal practice as well as large animal practice. I've been with Tomlyn Company a little over 4 years now, and so provide technical services for the sales force, technical training, and also support us in the field. So my experience and my practice gives me a certain perspective, but take this information for what it is, simply the perspective of a veterinarian. Share that with your veterinarian before you make any changes or additions to the care of your pet. They best know the current health status of your pet and can help you make the right decisions.
Great. Well, one of the questions that we had is starting off with summer.
Yes.
And it's super hot outside, and I know I even have friends that say, oh, well, I love having my dog with me, and I'm just going to run into the store real quick and grab a candy bar and something to drink. And I always think, oh my gosh, that poor dog in the car, even if you crack the window, there's still huge disadvantages for taking your animal with you on hot days. So you want to describe maybe some of the issues that there are with taking your dog with you and leaving them in the car, even for just a couple minutes?
Yeah, absolutely. And the issues are simply it's life-threatening. I mean, you just have to turn on the news, and unfortunately, on a weekly basis, we hear of tragedies because people just don't understand how quickly those cars heat up and how fast, minutes literally, that these animals can be put into a severe crisis. And with that, we hear about these tragic stories. So the simplest answer is, unfortunately, we just cannot travel and leave animals in cars in this time of year in most of these climates where that temperature within that car can be well over 100 degrees in a matter of minutes. To crack the window does not provide enough circulation. If anything, it might provide a route where that animal might try to attempt to escape just to simply get out of the car, causing itself further bodily injury. So we have to, many times, as responsible pet owners, put ourselves in the perspective of the pet and just decide it's in the best interest of our pet to not take the animal on a few errands, to not leave them in a car where a potential tragedy can happen. They're much more comfortable at home. If it's just a short trip, then we're not talking about an extended period of time away, and it's always going to be best. But you just cannot keep that animal cool enough. If we factor in the anxiety of traveling, the anxiety of being separated from their owner, so the panting and the excess activity that can occur inside a car when an animal is just stressed, couple that with the excessive temperatures, is just going to further exacerbate the condition and again just set up a tragic situation. So the best rule of thumb is simply to not do it, unfortunately, and it's going to be in the best interest of all.
Yeah, great advice for sure. Let's talk about dogs and when they go outside, because someone had a question and concerns of their dog getting dehydrated. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about maybe some signs if your animal is outside and they are getting dehydrated and what to do. Sure.
So the signs of dehydration can be very subtle, and unfortunately many times when we begin to realize our animal is having an overheating crisis, then it's truly an emergency. But certainly an animal that's panting excessively, that appears to be stumbling, a little bit lethargic, losing its coordination, those can all be symptoms of an animal that's suffering from a heat attack. So those are all things we need to monitor, and those are things that need to quickly be addressed should we see these symptoms by your veterinary care professional. As far as prevention, especially with animals that don't spend a lot of time outside, it's still always a good idea to have a water source for them out there. Make sure it's clean, being checked daily for any contamination. Many times even to put a couple of ice cubes in it just to keep it a little bit cooler is always a good thing, some crushed ice. Just even if they're going to be out there for a matter of minutes or a half hour, to have that access for them, especially again when they're not acclimated. For animals that spend a lot of time outside, if not full time outside, we certainly want to provide adequate shelter for them where they can get out of the sun. Obviously a 24-hour a day clean water supply for them, absolutely. I've even seen people go to the dollar store and buy those plastic swimming pools that you can fill with water, allowing those animals to be able to jump in that water, kind of soak and bathe and jump in and out. Again, checking that daily as well. All good ideas to do to, again, manage the fact that they can get very hot very quickly, and certainly when we begin to see symptoms, then potentially we're already in a very high-risk situation.
Yes, very good. Let's talk about animals and their potential of getting sunburned. You know, even if they're short hair, if they're long hair, maybe depending on the color of the animal, if they're more susceptible, because I know a lot of my family members are pale, so they have a tendency to get sunburned, obviously. So does that seem to correlate to animals too?
Yeah, there is. There is a correlation, and certainly they have skin, so it can burn. And certainly animals that are less exposed to the sun can be more sensitive. White-haired breeds of animals, more very thinly coated animals, can be much more susceptible. Those parts of the body that are not especially covered with hair, the tips of the ears, the tips of the nose, are all certain areas that may be more prone. There are products available to address this issue, but just as in people, step one is to cut down on the amount of sun exposure. So we want to make sure in animals that are spending a large amount of time outside that they certainly have plenty of access to shade in cool spots where they can get out of the sun. We certainly, again, going back to the water, we want to make sure that water is readily available, because certainly animals do and can suffer from sunburn.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, I remember I had a white-haired cat, and she was inside and outside, mainly inside, but when she wanted to go outside and it was hot, I noticed when she came inside, her ears would be a little red.
Sure, right.
So yeah, so that makes perfect sense.
And you may notice cats that when they have fever, one of the old home remedies to check if your cat, or your dog for that matter, might be running a fever is to check the tips of those ears, because they can collect heat very quickly. And an animal that seems to have excessively warm ears can many times be actually running a fever, again indicative of an increased internal body temperature.
Yeah. Well, since it's summertime and I have 2 cats, I have noticed that they're shedding a lot more.
Right.
So let's talk about some things that we can do to help prevent them from shedding too much, and you know, collection of hairballs and all of that fun stuff.
Yeah, there's a natural cycle to the hair growing process, should we say, meaning there is a growth of that hair follicle, there's a natural loss of that hair follicle, and there's a natural replacement. And that cycle can certainly be sped up at certain times of the year. When things are warmer, the animals attempt to auto-regulate. It may lose more hair excessively, so that's always going to be important. Certainly we want to groom these animals more, get as much of that excess hair off of them. These cats that have excessively long hair and excessively shed are certainly going to tend to groom more, and again ingest that hair. With ingestions of that hair, then hairballs become a much more important issue certain times of the year. Certainly we have the hairball remedy for cats available both in a chew, a chew and a gel. And what these products do, again, is ball that hair up, make it into a nice round ball that can pass safely through the GI tract and into the litter box versus being coughed and hawked out onto your kitchen floor. So again, excessive shedding this time of year is not overly concerned unless that hair is not being replaced, and then you notice parts of your cat are bald. It's natural with this time of year. Extra grooming and extra attention to controlling hairballs is important.
Great. Yeah, we have someone that had asked earlier about the dogs. Because it's so hot, they love to jump in the pool with the kids as they swim. And I know you covered the sunburn as well. But how about like when they go underneath, even if they're at the lake and they're swimming away in their ears,
Sure.
you know, either the protection of the ears or maybe what we need to look for if they do go swimming?
Yeah, this time of year, ear infections are much more common in children because they spend more time in the water, and certainly in our pets. If you recall from previous conversations, we have to remember that that environment inside that ear is kind of just a ear infection waiting to happen. There are a normal amount of bacteria and yeast in that ear. It's a deep, dark place. If these animals have floppy ears, there's not a lot of drying goes on, so many times there's a lot of moisture in the ear. So when we add additional moisture from a pool or from a lake, then we just fuel the fire for the likelihood of an ear infection. So just as with children or us, when we're in the water, we use drying agents or something to control that moisture. We do recommend that we treat those ears proactively to prevent things such as that. If we look to the veterinary recommended ear cleanser that we have from Tomlyn, this product, when administered in the ear canal, actually does multiple things. It dries that ear out, which again, we want to control as much of that moisture as we can. It cleans out the excessive debris and the wax, so we get nice circulation, nice healthy tissue. But even more importantly, perhaps, we have 3 acids in there to create a much more acidic environment. That slightly acidic environment is an environment that most of these bugs do not like. So it's about maintaining an environment less hospitable to them growing. And this time of year, it's so important to pay even extra.
Make sure So we just had a fan,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
that sent us a question. She has 7 awesome cats, and 3 of them do the modeling and acting, and they're on set, but sometimes they have to be outside. And unfortunately, she doesn't always have access for air conditioning. So is there maybe a way that she can help keep them cool, or anything that you're aware of?
Yeah, I mean, certainly keeping air circulation going. We have an English bulldog. You may remember Biggie the bulldog. And certainly they are very heat intolerant. So some things you might think about, I would assume you're keeping them in some sort of crated environment when they're not doing their role. Certainly putting a fan on them, absolutely, to keep that air circulation going. Even taking ice packs. These old ice packs that come pre-formed that can freeze and refreeze. You can actually place those inside the crate, again, to lower that ambient temperature somewhat. That, coupled with air circulation, would be kind of a do-it-yourself air conditioner. Certainly might help as well. If these cats tend to be excessively stressed, though they perform their jobs very well, then considering a product like our Relax and Calm Chews to just keep them a little bit calmer, because again, with excess agitation, excess activity in that crate, perhaps panting, we're just stimulating more generation of internal body heat. But try some of those things and see if that may not work for you.
Awesome. Yeah, we just had Lawson ask, kind of back to making sure your animal's hydrated. Is there any pointers when they really need water versus if they're just hot? Like, I guess, does their body get to a temperature where maybe they just don't get to the point where they're thirsty?
Yeah, unfortunately, Lawson, it's hard to give you a pat answer. The physiologic needs for water are very different among animals depending on their health status, depending on their breed. Sometimes there are underlying conditions where animals drink excessively. To really look at an animal and know that it needs to drink is very, very difficult. So we really try to say have access to water at all times in some form or fashion. As far as evaluating a dog, if we're worried that it may be getting a little dehydrated, a couple of little tips: you can always lift up their gums and check those gums. They should be nice and moist. If they're dry and tacky and it looks like they've got cotton mouth, that can be indicative of some dehydration, and it might be a good opportunity again to try to offer them some water. Certainly you can crush up some ice. For whatever reason, some dogs will chew a little crushed up ice but don't want to drink water. But to say that you can look at an animal and say it's time for water versus not is very, very difficult, and would it be much better just to always provide some sort of water for them.
How about if, it's hot outside, and unfortunately sometimes the air conditioning will go out, but even though it's not hot inside, maybe some dogs will continue to pant. Is that something to be aware of, or is
I mean, panting is a natural way for that animal to get rid of heat. So to expect them not to pant is unrealistic. You know your dog better than anybody, so certainly excessive panting, and again, just a sense that they're a little uncoordinated, that they're a little wobbly, could be a sign that that is intensifying. Again, access to plenty of water, looking at those mucous membranes, wanting to make sure that again, that these animals are not getting in some sort of crisis. Fans are always good. Any sort of And we're back. There we go.
Sorry, we're having some connection issues. We're actually in Denver, Colorado today.
Making this up as we go along, so thank you.
Well, let's kind of switch gears. So summertime, we know it has a lot of bugs outside. And I know, for one, we're always putting something on ant hills just to try to get rid of the ants, because we have a little girl and we have 2 cats, and we want to make sure that no one gets stung by them or anything like that. So a question regarding fertilizer. So if people put fertilizer out to help the grass look good, or maybe kill the weeds or kill the bugs, what's some precautions or things that maybe we should do when putting that the fertilizer out, and we have our animals that have a tendency to go outside?
Sure. So again, fertilizers, weed killers, ant medicine, all of these chemicals certainly are being used, especially this time of year and in the springtime. First and foremost, all of these products should have labeled recommendations on how to apply. They should have safety precautions on them, and we should certainly respect those to the fullest. Even if you use a lawn service, you'll notice many times they'll stick a little flag in the front yard after the treatment, and it'll specify wait until the product is dry or no contact with the grass for X amount of hours. We have to understand and respect those. So first and foremost, always look at the product, look at what the recommendations are, and follow them to the T. If there are no instructions on there, then be very leery about its safety or contact the manufacturer directly. If there's an ingredient in there you don't understand, or the directions don't make sense as far as when children or pets can return to it, contact your veterinarian as well, because many times they can be a wealth of information, having experience in managing these types of products.
Great. And Karen just had another question for us. It's based on cats panting versus dogs. So do they pant? Because I know I have 2 cats and I don't ever see them pant. Maybe because I don't play with them enough, and I should. But is there a difference?
Yeah, Karen, absolutely. And in my opinion, I don't think that cats pant because they're hot. I think cats pant because they're hurting, or I think cats pant because they're stressed. So in my experience with a panting cat, those are the type of situations something is not right. We don't normally put our cats through the type of stresses that are going to generate the types of heat. We're not out there playing ball with them. We're not using them as working animals. Cats are pretty chill, and they know how to manage those things. They lay up for the day and then go out at night. So when I see a panting cat, I am much more concerned about anxiety, or some sort of internal discomfort or pain, and that's an outward sign of that.
Okay, great. And then Lawson has a question on if you're going out of town, if you have a cat, is it okay to leave it alone by itself for a day or 2 days, or do you have any advice on? I know.
Nice question, Lawson. Thanks. Make things easy for me. It's always best to have a house sitter to at least check on these cats daily, because even if we leave a good food source, we leave a good water source, we leave, of course, plenty of litter boxes. Things happen. If you're like the 4 interesting cats, shall we say, that we own, they're knocking things over, things fall, things break, the water bowl gets tipped over, somehow access to the food and water can be disrupted. Just craziness. So I'm never going to say how long is okay. Certainly cats are a little bit easier to manage than dogs, but certainly my recommendation would be at least somebody to walk by there and just double check. You may well have plenty of food, water, and the litter box taken care of for X number of days, so it's not asking a lot for a neighbor or a buddy just to poke their head in and make sure that all's okay.
Well, it's interesting because there's a lady that we work with, Ferda.
Yep.
And she has 3 cats, and she actually had a sitter come in while they were on vacation. And she ended up getting a call from the alarm system because the alarm was going off because the firemen showed up at their house. And she was like, what the heck is going on? Come to find out, one of the cats got on the stove, and they have a gas stove.
Yeah.
And actually, I don't know how they did it, but they turned that little knob.
Yeah.
And thank God for their sitter who was aware of what was going on. But yeah, I think you're right. They're mischievous.
Yeah, and again, things out of your control, and it's just always good to at least have somebody do a spot check for you.
Let's talk about barbecues and parties and, summertime. Sure. A lot of times we want to invite people over to our house and just barbecue out, and our animals may not always appreciate that. So let's talk about some ways to maybe helping to calm the animals, cats or dogs, before we invite the party over and get them acclimated to the environment.
Sure. So much like the holiday season, Christmas and Thanksgiving, much more of a social time of year, much more of a time where we're liable to have lots of good food, lots of friends, lots of parties going on. And again, putting ourselves in the perspective of our pets and what their expectation is, how they might might receive this. We think it's all great fun, but for some animals, it can be very stressful events. So first and foremost, we want to address that by perhaps managing the animal's access to these people. If they're happier in the back room while the party goes on in the other room, then let that happen. There's no reason to place that stress on these animals. Certainly products like Relax and Calm, the chew from Tomlyn that has both L-tryptophan and chamomile and ginger in it, can provide a sense of relief from the stress, starting that a few days ahead of the party and getting it through the party, just to take the edge off of these animals, help them be a little bit more relaxed. Certainly we also offer, for those looking for alternative therapies, a homeopathic product for dogs and cats that provides ingredients to control stress and anxiety. These are products you place in the water. They contain no alcohols and no sugars, and they're much more of a holistic approach to managing by placing it in their water. Again, starting this product prior to these types of events, again, just to take the edge off. Certainly with these parties also come all this good food and the propensity of some of our guests to try to make friends with our pets by giving them the treats off the table. We've talked in the past about how dangerous this can be because, again, animals that are not acclimated to the types of foods we eat, and some very serious medical issues can occur. So we need to really make sure people understand that, or again, keep these animals from having access to the food and even the party itself if it's in that animal's best interest.
Yeah, great. And we know because it's summertime, the fleas and ticks are out, and a lot of times we're not sure why. We'll take dogs, for instance, start itching and scratching. And sometimes we'll start seeing red spots and we correlate it to fleas. So let's talk about, like, how do you know what a hot spot is, what it looks like, and then maybe prevention of that, or how can we help with that hot spot?
Yeah, so again, a hot spot is really a simple term for just these areas of red, ulcerated, nasty, gooey, just sore spots on these animals that come from excessive chewing and licking at these sites. Certainly fleas can be a source of irritation, and with this, these animals chew and bite at these fleas, damage that skin. In damaging that skin, they actually set up a little infection there. And with that infection comes more irritation, so they lick and chew more, and it just gets into this roller coaster that can become quite a problem. So the hot spots, again, are normally secondary to something, whether that's the flea allergies, whether that's sunburn, whether that's some sort of other sensitivity. As far as initially to address that area, certainly we have a product called Hot Spot Spray, crazy enough, that has a bunch of different products in there. The Hot Spot Spray, first and foremost, it's going to address that infection. It's got a disinfectant in there that will try to control the infection that's actually occurring at that site. It also has a couple of products in there to numb the pain. And in removing that pain, the animal is less likely to lick at it. Having been in practice and experienced a bazillion of these and having to treat them, they are very, very painful. They are very sore to the touch. Many times, my wife, who is a veterinary assistant, would have to sedate these animals so we could clean them up. But there are a couple of products in there to try to make that feel a little bit better, so it's a little less likely to be irritative and painful. The other product in there is actually going to detract them from wanting to lick. And if they can leave that thing alone, it's much more likely to heal more quickly. So again, but always remember that there's an underlying issue there, that those outward hot spots you're seeing is related to something. So when these become problematic, when we seem to have these all the time, have a conversation with your veterinarian about what might be causing these and see if there's not some sort of medical management available to prevent them from occurring in the first place.
Okay. Good. And you had talked earlier about, with the barbecue situation and the parties and the Relax and Calm. Kelly has a question. 4th of July is coming up.
Yes.
And maybe some of us have new animals. Maybe we just adopted them, or they could be puppies and kittens, and they're not yet used to the loud noise of fireworks. So what's some things that we can do, especially the day or the night of 4th of July, to really help calm these animals and make them feel safe?
Yeah, I think the key term would be start on about July 1st. To really try to get ahead of that, because unfortunately if we wait until the lights and the booms and the pops go, it can be very difficult to bring these animals under some sense of calmness. So we can certainly try either of the products that we have, the Relax and Calm or the homeopathic product we carry a few days before the 4th of July. Again, to try to take the edge off a little bit, to provide a sense of calm, to be more level, shall we say, more mellow before those fireworks begin to get off. As far as managing them during the actual fireworks shows, really good way to manage that, somewhat easy, is to have, for lack of a better word, a safe house inside. It can be a closet in an internal room of the house where you're able to place this animal, where you can get all the lights out, and certainly where they're not going to see any kind of flashes from the fireworks going on outside. Within there, you can put some treats, you can put their favorite toys, you can put towels, you can place a radio in there with ambient music turned up to a volume that's going to drown out any of the booms. And in that safe house, many of these animals will be very, very comfortable. And we're back again. Thank you.
So let's talk about, with it being summertime again, and allergies. I mean, I know with my husband, he says that allergies are getting really bad for him. Thank God I don't suffer from the allergies like he does. But then we also see, animals with their eyes tearing up and things like that. So are they susceptible to allergies as well?
Yeah, they're absolutely summertime allergies. Allergies are not just a fall or spring thing. There are certain things that tend to grow happier in hotter times of the year. So to think that there are no such thing as allergies in the summer, what we try to do is offer as many different products as we can to support that. In our homeopathic line, we do have allergy products available to us that contain ingredients very likely to be stimulating allergy symptoms. Again, products that can be placed in the water, that are very safe, that have no taste or smell, no alcohols, no sugars, to just stimulate that body's immune response to those types of things that might be causing that allergic discomfort.
Great, and let's actually show.
Yes, here it is. So we have one for cats. We also have one for dogs as well. We also have products that are specifically geared towards the skin and itch aspect. The nice thing about homeopathic remedies is they can be used in conjunction. So we can use the skin and itch as well as use an allergy product with the MPP. And again, trying to address as many of those symptoms that might be causing the discomfort.
And then also, if you do have additional questions, let us know. For some reason, if we don't see your question, we are having some connectivity issues. We'll definitely respond to you afterwards. And then one thing that I think we should let the fans know is about one of our newer products for the equine market.
Yes, we actually do. Tomlyn is entering the large animal market. For many people, the large animals, especially our horses, are pets as well. We, as a family, own a horse like that ourselves. And certainly we're happy to introduce a joint product that really looks at the discomfort that horses experience that have joint issues. So with the Art Fightin' product, which is a big giant product right here, a joint supplement for horses, we actually have products in there that are going to support the health of that cartilage, the health of that joint. And we're back. And as I was saying, and also an element in there to support the bone itself. So we're really excited, and there'll be more news to come. We'll probably have opportunities in future episodes to discuss it more further. But again, something we're very excited as we bring new products to the Tomlyn family.
Well, wonderful. Well, we'd like to wrap up this session. And again, if you have questions even afterwards, just let us know. We really appreciate you participating in the Tomlyn Facebook event. Thanks so much and have a wonderful week.
Yes, thank you. Peace.